All right. Excited to get started here. Ken Zorvich, NFM Lending. I've got one of the top agents in South Florida, Ronnie Starum with Kai's, crushing it in a tough
Thank you.
market. So she should be proud of herself. I know she doesn't like to give herself a lot of credit, but she does an awesome job out there.
A little
Good morning,
bashful.
Ronnie.
Good morning. A little bashful, a little embarrassing to start the day, but thank you.
Yeah, come on. We need some positive affirmation to start our day, right?
Absolutely. We can do it. It's 2025. We can do this.
Yes. All right, let's dive into real estate. This actually is a great topic to always talk about because it affects so many people in their daily lives, right? I mean, no matter what you're doing, whether you own, whether you rent, what's happening out there in the market is always important. I like looking at data when it comes to the market because I think it tells us a lot when we're sitting there guessing, like, hey, what are you seeing? Or what are you seeing? Or what are you hearing? And a lot of times, if we just look at the data, we can really make at least some assumptions or make some conclusions on what is happening out there. A couple things that I look at right now is our inventory levels. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you are the expert, but I think our inventory is pre-pandemic level at this point, at least in
We're back
single
to
family homes.
2019. That's what I say to everybody. We are back to 2019. We're back to numbers that are higher than what we're used to in the past 5 years. So, but it's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. It's more of a health balanced, let's just say. It's more of a balanced situation than it is what we had in the last 5 years.
Yeah, because what people don't understand, I think a lot of times, is a balanced market is really the ideal way to do business. Like if you look back in 2018, I mean, I'm sorry, 2008 when we had the market collapse, that was a very buyer's market, right? We had like 12 months of
Totally.
inventory and it was a buyer's market and sellers were struggling to get their properties sold because of a number of different issues. But then during the pandemic, it was very much a seller's market and buyers were struggling. And even though we talk about how interest rates were low and all of that, I tell people all the time, that was not a fun time if you were trying to buy real estate. You know, there was so much competition. You were probably paying more than appraised value just to get a place. Like there was all these things they were giving up, and sellers were obviously reaping the rewards from it. But once again, wasn't healthy because of this imbalance. So the fact that inventory is rising, I think, is a good thing. And when you talk about that numbers of months of inventory and how they measure it, it's kind of weird because like we probably have historically compared to like 2019, it probably feels like we have more number of months of inventory only because the buyer side is down, like the transaction numbers are down compared to where we were pre-pandemic. Any other stats that jump out to you about the market right now?
Um, I think you're right. I mean, you see how many people are applying for mortgages and you see what's happening out there. Um, so what I'm seeing is yes, there are buyers, they take longer. There are more days on market. I think it all has to do with and people are gearing up. We're in almost in the start of season, let's just say, which is the mid of the second semester of school, and everybody's getting ready and they're making plans and everything else. So we'll see inventory rise right now. What I think the most important thing as a real estate professional, be it you, be it me, be it our industry, your industry, is that we educate, right? So the education part goes to the seller, goes to the buyer. And as inventory rises, sellers need to make sure that they're placed and their pricing strategy is correct. And I think
Right.
that you and I have had previous conversations about this, that the inventory levels will go up because the amount of days that are on the market versus, I should have rephrased it. So properties that are priced correctly will go correctly, will go
Right.
within the 30, 45 days. Properties that are priced higher will take longer, which will show that we have more and more inventory on market.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
for sure.
hopefully I made sense. But,
Yeah. And I
and
think buyers are taking a little more time in their sales process, right? Like in the sale process, I think they're taking a little bit longer. in some cases. You could see buyers that are looking for a couple of months and then buy, but then you also have some that are ready to go the minute they have that pre-approval letter, they want to make an offer on something. So I think that factors into that days on market also, right?
Right. I think it definitely does. I think buyer education, I mean, there's a lot of lenders, not you, but there's a lot of lenders that don't take the time to do the consultation and explain to the buyers, hey, here's the situation. Here's what you need to prepare for. It's not only the amount of down payment that you're putting, be it 10,000, be it 10%, be it whatever it is. It's also the fact that you need that amount for closing costs. You need that amount for, for incidentals, for everything else. So for your inspection, for your appraisal, those are out of closing costs. So I think that it's all about education, seller and
Yeah.
buyer, all about education.
Yeah, I think our job as lenders is we have to turn people that are shoppers into buyers. And that
Right.
sounds like simple, but people think that just because they have a pre-approval letter, they're now a buyer, and they're not. They're still shopping, but they're not really in position, whether it's mentally or even financially, to make that offer. And now everything becomes real because money's on the line and there's deadlines to be met, and you are now in this. So that's a key point right now for sure. But
Right.
speaking of buyers, let's talk a little bit about the market relative to buyers. Give me one advantage you see that buyers have right now in the market.
Me. I'm sorry, was that out loud?
There you
No, I'm
go.
just kidding. I think that from my perspective, myself, I think it's years and years of experience of knowing how to deal with the different markets. Everybody started somewhere, and when I started, it was 2014, and it wasn't an easy market, if you remember back in the day.
Yeah.
So I think having gone through that and that experience obviously teaches a professional how to advise correctly, how to counsel correctly. Now, a serious answer, because it's all about me, but a serious answer is that buyers, if they're ready, if they have their finances in order, if they have, all their checklists, but understand that that checklist is not going to be 100% filled, they can find a property. They need to mentally understand that there is a property out there. It won't check everything on their grocery list, but it will check most of it, and you can make amendments, all right, to
Yeah.
every house. So I'll give you an example. I have a house here in Cooper City that doesn't have a pool, but it's on the water, and it's an amazing house. Amazing. Like, that view is to die for. It's actually in your neighborhood. So
Right.
that view is to die for. So I would take that and say, anybody that comes up and says, oh, but it doesn't have a pool, dude, you can put in a pool. There's space
Right.
for a pool. Look at the bigger picture. You cannot have that view anywhere. You cannot have that structure anywhere. You cannot have that extra bathroom without spending $150,000, right? So it's like making amends with yourself and saying, okay, I have a checklist. This checks off 90% of it, but it doesn't have a pool. So give up on that pool and create a pool in the future. I have a buyer that is very specific and is, sweetheart of a person, moved down here from New York a couple years ago, but the first agent that she works with, unfortunately, didn't guide her, didn't tell her, okay, this is what you need to look forward to. This is the process, which is something that we find both myself and David and Joanna, and Felicia, and all four of us, we find very important to say. We want to make sure you understand the process. So in order to have an advantage, understand that coming into a property that, even though the market's a little slower, coming into a property that's $550,000 and offering $490 is not going to work.
Right.
Trust your realtor, trust your real estate professional, because that person, they live and breathe that.
Yeah.
That is what we do. So except about the checklist, about being educated and being ready. I think the other thing is you need to do your own homework ahead of time, right?
For sure.
You need to say, I want to be in Broward and I'm open to Broward. Okay, open to Broward is really a big area. Do you want to be in North Broward, in the Parkland Coral Springs area? Do you want to be in Plantation? What do you want to be? And then the questions that should arise in a buyer's head is it what's important to me? Do I have kids in school age? Are the schools important? Are, the community? If you're of a certain religion, is there places of worship in the area? That's the kind of things that I try to challenge my buyers and get them ready.
Yeah.
That's like a standard question. Let's get you ready. Let's understand what exactly that you want. And when I start sending properties, and whenever your real estate professional starts sending properties to you, mark the ones that you like, talk to them about the ones that you like, because at least for us, for the Ronnie Steering Group, it tells us, okay, this is what they're looking for. This is their likes. This is their dislikes.
Yeah.
And I think it puts you as a buyer in an advantage point that, okay, now it's more streamlined. Now it's more explained. Now it's more, my realtor really knows me. I feel like we're a team. And at the end of the day, if your realtor doesn't have good communication with you, I'm sorry to say this, find a different realtor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I think that a lot of people, because this was pushed back in what, like probably after World War II, find your dream, like the white picket fence
The
and the
white picket
dream
fence,
home and
the baby
the
boomers,
suburbs and
yes.
all that, right?
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like, listen, you'll make it your home, whatever it is. Like it's just brick and wood and mortar right now, but you'll make it a home when you get in there. So don't be discouraged if it doesn't have every little thing, because it's really hard to even check all those boxes off on a new construction, right? To be able to have everything.
Don't get me started on new construction. But the thing that I tell my buyers, be it that they're my age, I'm 46, be it that they're my parents' age, it's a little different, maybe. I'll take that back. Be it that they're younger. What I always tell my buyers is that your current home that you're going to be in doesn't necessarily need to be your forever home. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Your home and your opportunities that arise, you buy that starter home. Let's say a mutual client that you and I have, that we had this conversation. My conversation was, get a starter home. Keep
Right.
that home. If you can afford to keep that home and make it a part of your nest egg and part of your investment portfolio in the future, do that. I know I shoot myself in the foot because I get paid for selling homes, but you know, get that home, get that 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, whatever it
Yeah.
may be. Move into that. Have a kid, have 2 kids, move into your next phase. We have a mutual customer, sorry, that now is now on my team, that she bought a 2-1 on a TK, which is, if for those who don't know, that's a renovation
Yeah. Renovation loan.
allowance
Yeah.
finance loan. She bought it on 2 of 3K, turned around, renovated it, lived in it for a few years. When she became pregnant and she knew what she was having, she moved into her now home, which is not her forever home. She's even said that. So
Yeah.
it's a stepping stone. It's all stepping stone. You don't need to start in the 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. I started in a 1-1.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I know I'm old, but I started in a 1-1. I started in a 1-1 walk up, if we
Right.
really want to talk about that. And it's a bad memory, but it was good for then. I was in my 20s. I
Yeah.
didn't care. I
Yeah.
didn't have kids. I didn't have anything. So yeah.
For sure. I totally agree. And I love the idea of getting into something smaller to start. You don't need your parents' home to start, right? Like you don't need the home you grew up in to start. What
Yeah.
is a disadvantage that you see for buyers out there right now?
Um, I think what we just spoke about, that lack of education, is
Yeah.
one of the disadvantages. I think that buyers could need to understand. I mean, it comes into the education, but they need to understand the market. Um, there's some flexibility in certain homes, some flexibility, some do have it, some don't have it. Um, More of a disadvantage, I would say, is not having the funds. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't have the funds for closing, and some rely on certain people saying, oh, maybe the seller will give you the funds or anything else, but it doesn't mean that the seller is going to do that.
Right.
We had a closing in Homestead recently that what they did is they ended up upping the price so we priced it at $399. They went up to $410 in order to get a buy down.
Right.
And that's the way the seller still got 402 because the seller said, hey, I am going to have to pay all these extra costs. So I want to make sure that that I cover myself.
Yeah, that I'm
Smart
still
seller.
netting the amount that I want, right?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, they can do that. And I think people stop talking about the buy down, but it's still out there, people.
yeah,
Make sure you take advantage of it. And but you do have it is a disadvantage because you have to take into consideration that the minute you do that, and this is the part of education as well, the minute you do that, your taxes are based on that 410 number, your taxes, your closing costs, everything is based on that 410 number. So you
yeah,
have to do your calculation. You definitely do.
yeah, for sure.
I mean, another disadvantage that they might have is coming to the table with a strong enough offer, right? Not only from the financial side, strong enough in terms. And I think that's where a lot of real estate professionals do get confused.
Yeah,
You do have to explain to your buyer that you have to have that opportunity in order to make it. If you're already offering below or you're already asking for money, make sure that you offer good terms. That don't turn around and say, I want a 10-day inspection and a 40-day loan commitment on something that you just offered $50,000 down on.
right.
So, I mean, but I have my opinions. It doesn't mean that I'm correct. That's my personal opinion. That's worked for us. I think that, for those who know me, I'm extremely opinionated but I am very I want my buyer. If my buyer fell in love with that house and that's what he wants, I'm going to be as brutal as possible and be like, okay, guys, here's what we're doing. We're doing X amount of days. We're doing this. We'll talk to Ken. We'll get the loan commitment for this amount of days. And you and I have done, I mean, one of them just celebrated a house anniversary. So
Right.
that was an extremely 10-day loan commitment and everything else, but she wanted the house. She
Yeah.
said, this is my dream. This is exactly it. She wanted the house. We went after the house, and the way to get it wasn't the price. It wasn't anything. It was the terms.
Yeah. No,
So
that's a good point.
as you notice, it all comes back to one thing: education.
Yeah.
Education. Make sure your realtor knows what the heck they're doing. Make sure the realtor takes the time to explain and to educate and to put it on. Wow, I talk a lot with my hands. I'm going to stop now. Sorry, I can see myself now. So yeah, I'm very passionate.
No, I love it. I love it. Let's dive into the seller side. Tell me right now an advantage sellers have in the market.
The sellers that are pricing correctly will get the multiple offers.
Right.
So we'll take another one, a current one that we have here in Cooper City. Seller has been on the market for 68 days. It's priced correctly, but putting your house during the holidays on the market is a little bit of a disadvantage, but they went to go for it and everything's fine. We had an offer, fell through. Actually, unfortunately, the guy got laid off, so it fell through. And then last week, 2, 3, 4 offers, because the market's picking up now.
Yeah.
4 offers, and the seller had the opportunity to there's 3, sorry, let me digress. There's 3 properties, same layout on that street. So the seller, being that he put on a new roof, the fact that he took care of his house or cleaned his house or listened to us, and we moved stuff into the garage, we did certain things, that's an advantage. Again, listen to your realtor.
For sure.
That's an advantage. So he turned around and he got his full price and he got his terms and 3 days inspection and this and that. That's a big deal now.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So it's having, first of all, so we'll go back. It's having a property that first and foremost is appealing. Do take care of your stuff. I always send a list of things. Hey, here's what I suggest we do. Here's how we get ready for the photos. Here's how we do things. So take advantage of that because
Yeah.
people shop with their eyes. And the first line of exposure is obviously the photos that are coming through online. And that's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
The ones that have photos taken with a cell phone, that's not an advantage. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Spend the money, the realtor should really spend the money on it. It doesn't matter the price point. So that's the first thing. I mean, but I went off on a tangent, I know. But, the other thing is sellers can set the price in certain aspects. and they can set the rhythm, but they need to be realistic.
Yeah.
If they're in a wanted area, let's take Weston. Weston has amazing schools, has amazing everything. Love Weston. It's a PUD, it's a planned urban development that was done very nicely, very aesthetically appealing. And Weston, Cooper City, Davie, that's like really high end of schools as well.
Yeah.
The sellers that are in that area also have that advantage because people are looking for the schools. So the minute they're looking for the schools and you highlight the fact that the schools are there, the sellers know that they can get top dollar.
Yep.
So that's definitely an advantage. I think, and maybe you're going to ask me next about this, but I think a disadvantage is a lot of sellers thinking, sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but a lot of
No,
sellers
dive into it.
thinking
That's what we
that
want to
we're
talk about.
still in that market that we talked about before, that we're not in 2019 and overpricing houses, hence the houses being on the market a little bit longer. That's a disadvantage. That's an unfortunate pricing strategy, and that's it happens. It's happening. It happens. It happened to us. But certain things that they're when you go on a listing appointment, you get into people wanting a certain amount, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh well, my neighbor sold for XYZ, and I want XYZ plus 12. Well, it's not necessarily where we are. And you got to
Right.
consider the comps, and you got to consider the area, and you got to consider everything and the improvements on the house. So that puts the sellers in a disadvantage. But again, the ones that are priced correctly, amazing.
Yeah.
That's a huge advantage because they'll get the amount of people, they'll get I had an open house in Weston Hills, priced correctly, 25 families. And
Wow.
it's not a low price point.
Right.
25 families. So, when I looked at it, I was like, okay, I was mega busy because we do, our increments, and we were mega busy, and thank goodness there was two of us. But, it's you price it correctly, you do things correctly, everything comes back to the same thing. Education
Yeah. And
and
I think
communication.
too, like sellers understanding the inventory numbers is really important, right? Like, hey,
Yes.
that's your competition that's rising on a weekly basis right now, right? Like your competition is rising, and if you have that, what are you going to do to stick out, right? How are you going to stick out? Is it, following instructions on how to present a property right, getting those pictures done, pricing according to what, your agent's telling, it's like don't think that necessarily what the key is to selling in the market just because you're a homeowner. I think that's a mistake that a lot of them make right now, is not still trusting professionals, thinking I can maybe just put a sign up and sell it or something like that. Like there's the first impression is always the most impactful one, right? It's really
Right.
hard for if a buyer goes in there, maybe it smells a certain way or it looks a certain way, they can't
Right.
get it out of their head a lot of times,
I'll
you
give
know?
I'll give you an example. Sorry to cut you off, but I'll give you an example. There's a property here in Cooper City that was on the market as a for sale by owner. My friend Chris, who I love, but it was on for sale by owner, and he tried. He was his mother's property. He tried. He tried once. He tried twice. He tried for a
Mhm.
while. I'm not a pushy person. I will never tell anybody. We became friends afterwards. So, but I will never tell anybody, hey, you should list with me, you should do this. I'm not a pushy person. That's not within my personality. I'd rather help and I'd rather be supportive. I turned around. One of my agents put an offer on his mom's house. It came back with certain things. He didn't know how to handle it. Sorry, Chris. He didn't know how to handle it. He didn't know um, how to maneuver it. Right. That deal ended up falling through and we moved forward. He called me and he said, listen, let's put it down. Here's the property. You know what's wrong with the property. You know what's happening with the property. I need to sell the property. I don't think this for sale by owner thing is for me. People are showing up. They're not even vetted. You don't even know that they're approved or they're not approved or anything else. Long story short, he had it priced also in a way that didn't wasn't good for the property. We ended up selling it. You did the loan
Yeah.
on it. We ended up selling it, and he gained. His mom actually made more money than she did if she would have without it. And we ended up fixing a few things that were minor, like GFCIs and things like that,
Yeah.
which is your electric stuff. And you know, He's like, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
So a month or two, I can't remember how long later, he turned around and he called, and he's like, I'm not calling anybody else. Just come list my house. Here's the key. Just take photos, do whatever you need. Erin,
Do your
talk to
thing.
Erin, and then she'll tell you what to do.
Right.
Okay. That so I mean,
Very cool.
it's just being there for them and
Yeah.
communicating and being able to support. Listen, not everybody's going to list with you. And it
Yeah.
hurts. It really hurts because sometimes you're like, oh my God, she's my friend. Oh my God, this person was in touch with me. It hurts. It really does because realtors do put a lot into relationships, especially, I can talk from my people. My people put 100 million% into it,
Yeah.
and they sit there and they educate and they give from their time and they give for the community and you know, and then they go with somebody else. It's not even from here. And it's their hairdresser's second, third cousin that, once removed, and you sit there and you're like, oh, okay, well, that hurt, but
Right.
it's okay. I mean, you move on. You move on and you say onwards upwards and outwards.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. I think that, I did earlier in my career. I mean, career, it sounds like I have a really huge career, but 10 years ago, I took it extremely personal. I'm like, dude, I'm working my butt off. Come on.
Right.
I just had a baby and I'm working and I'm trying. Listen, my first year with realtors, in real estate, I did $75,000 only based on rentals,
Right.
only rentals. Nobody wanted to give me a time of day until a client named Caesar, which until Caesar turned around and gave me a chance. And he was like, wow, why didn't anybody do this? Because we
Yeah.
differentiate ourselves. And I take my marketing experience and I take my David's experience of, he's an attorney by education. He decided not to practice. Don't blame him. But I take everything from there and we implement it into our work. And that's the way it should be. You should
Yeah.
take some experience. You should take what you know. You should learn from other people. And, even for Kai's, I've done Christina Papas and Mike, amazing people. I am very lucky with my brokers, and they give me a free hand to do almost everything I want. And they bring me down when I'm a little out there. But
Yeah.
they give me a chance to talk to new realtors and I love it. I truly love it because I see myself and nobody guided me 10 years ago because I wasn't with them, but nobody guided me. So I'm like, you know what? You always need to start from somewhere, but someone giving you a little bit of guidance is a lot better than just being thrown in and, oh, here's your license.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What do I do now?
Well, it can fast track you, right? Like, I mean, like if someone tells you something that could speed your moving up in the market, like by a year, 2 years, like God, like that's the
Yeah.
best, right?
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
I think learning from people that have been in the market for a while. And I have somebody in my office named Teeny, and I learn from her all the time because no matter how much she makes fun of herself and says, you have so much better stuff. And she's the funniest person. I learn from her. She's tenacious. She's very constant. Her group of people her sphere, sorry, that trusts her. I learned so much from her. And
Right.
she always makes fun of it. She's like, no, I learned from you. And she'll call me and, she's been doing this for 20 some years. She'll call me and she'll ask me questions about technology and I'll call her and ask her questions about life.
Yeah,
It's a give and take. I
for
think
sure.
everybody's got an added value. Everybody's got an advantage. When it comes to real estate, it really, really is about communication and camaraderie and everything else. And unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way, but
Yeah.
that's a whole different conversation.
So tell me, what's a myth or something you hear about, maybe real estate, realtors, something right now that's out there that if you could wave a magic wand, you would change?
Okay.
Only
All right.
one.
Only one? Man, where's David? Okay, only one. So August 17th rolled around. There was an NAR lawsuit, National Association of Realtors. We're not going to talk about the individual who started this because he now has a real estate company, but that's a whole different.
That's for the next
Yeah, that's a whole different
one that
conversation.
we're going to do. We'll dive into that.
So he, what it caused is we do have to get a buyer's agreement signed at every showing. We
Right.
cannot show houses without a buyer's agreement, and that has to become part of the conversation. So that's on the buyer side. On the seller side, and we can delve into that, in a further next time. On the seller side, a lot of sellers are like, oh, do I have to pay commission? And then we explain it. We explain you go into that in depth, and you do have to explain it, and you do have to go into details that, are sometimes uncomfortable for people to talk about.
Yeah.
I was in an ethics class yesterday when we were texting, and don't tell them. And they, being the board, cannot even say the word commission on a webinar. We've
Wow.
been using the word bananas. So you get paid X bananas and and you sit there and you're like, oh my God, this lawsuit is ridiculous. But, who am I? It's way beyond my pay grade.
Yeah.
I'm not there. So I think that people perceiving that, that things have changed. They have changed. Like the agreement has changed. The way the structure of the listing agreement has changed. Most of the homes are still offering buyer's agent compensation.
Hmm.
You do have to be licensed in order to get compensated. That's a question I've had as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. You cannot just get compensated because, but this is a DBPR license, and this is something that we are, that we have to go to school for and continue education and everything else. But the end of the day, it's do you offer, do you not offer? And that places for other realtors, the buyer, should I show it? Should I not show it? I'm not saying they're doing it. I'm not saying they're not doing it. I can tell you that it's an advantage and a disadvantage.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully I didn't get myself in trouble, right? But
Nah, I think you were good. So tell me, Cooper City, you do a ton of business there. We both live there.
right.
I know there's a lot of businesses there that that people just may not know about. And I know you know a ton of people around the town. So tell me, what's a business that people don't know enough about, or that you love, that you just want to like recognize because you think more people should be taking
Like
advantage of
brick
it?
and mortar or business? Or
Business,
like,
business, either one.
wow, putting me on the spot. Wow. I mean, Cooper City has some hidden gems, right? You and I live in the same community almost, but across the street. But I think like places like Buddy's in the Embassy Lakes Plaza, or places like, oh my God, Le Bruchette, which not a lot of people know about.
No.
It's an amazing restaurant. It's a Lebanese chef and his American wife, and they're amazing. And they've been part of this community for years. You have Tasteful Thoughts. She makes her own chocolates. You have, God, I'm going to get beat up for forgetting places. I'm going through a mental list. You have, God, you have some amazing veterinarians. You have amazing dentists. One of my clients, she's, oh my God, it's a word in English. She's dentist for kids, periodontist. Thank you. I have help here. So she's amazing. People come to her from all over Broward and Miami Gardens. You have an amazing community here.
Yeah.
I run Cooper City Buzz. I've been doing it since I started being a realtor. I started before. I started it for my clients, for my customers, to kind of have an interaction and get advice and everything else about what's available and what's not available. And it's grown, and it's over 9,000 people, and it's fun.
That's
We
awesome.
have fun. But for those I didn't mention, there's still a slew of places. I swear, I just can't think because he put me on the spot. And I have chocolates from Tasteful Thoughts also here on the table. She makes keto ones. Did you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Well,
It's
you'll
very
have plenty
good.
of time on other conversations to highlight some other businesses. So, last thing going out the door here. Tell me, what's your superpower? What's made you successful? What's one thing you could point to and share with a realtor like, hey, this is what I've done and this is what's helped to separate me and make me successful?
I think there's two things. I sound very conceited right now, but I think there's, I always overanalyze. You've known me for years. I overanalyze myself. I kind of beat myself up as well. But I think being grounded and knowing that giving back to the community that gave you so
Yeah.
much because this community has given me so much, has given me an opportunity, and and I took it from there. Knowing how to be grounded and to say thank you and to give back, I think that's one of the most important things that you can do. I think on the other side, that for those who don't know, I'm multicultural. I grew up all over the world. I speak many languages, and as does my husband, as does Joanna. So, we have Portuguese, Spanish, Hebrew, English sometimes, conversational French. We can
Yeah,
do this. I think being multicultural, especially in South Florida, even if the
it's
person
huge.
yeah, even if the person is just from here or coming here, I think it's a huge advantage to understand our culture. Listen, everybody's like, oh, you live in Miami. I'm like, no, I live in Cooper City, which is about 30 miles away from Miami. But listen, I understand the vibe. I grew up in Argentina. I know what those people like. I know
Right.
what people are saying. I mean, I have great jokes about Argentines and I have great jokes about me. But it's understanding the Latin side, it's understanding the European side, it's understanding the Middle Eastern side, obviously. So it's a melting pot. We are definitely, South Florida has become a melting pot. It was always a melting pot, but now we're more on point of, hey, where everybody wants to be Florida, come live where you vacation, as they say. And we truly do live in a vacation. If I showed you what David is doing right now, which is sitting while my friend texted from New York saying, oh my God, this blizzard needs to stop. David is sitting outside working on the hammock. That
Right.
is Florida. We have that advantage. We have that good part. So,
That's what we
I,
need. We need those strong winters up north to send people down. So,
yeah, dude, we're open. We're open. We don't care if you come here just for a few months. We're open.
yeah.
Listen, and the last one is being humble. Very humble. Um, no, but being humble, I think, is a huge thing that people need to know. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter what business you're running. You need to learn to be humble. You need
Yeah.
to learn to,
100%.
like I said in the beginning, say thank you and give back to whomever gave to you, and stay in touch, not just because you want their business,
Because you care, right?
because you actually care.
Yeah.
So our slogan is actually I care for real, REAL, and yet that can be perceived in various ways.
Yeah. I
Real
love it.
estate, real life, real communication, real everything. No, but we're fun. I'm fun.
Ronnie, this was awesome. I appreciate you taking some time to chat. I think we gave some good information. What do you think?
I think so. I go off on tangents, but I think I'm pretty good.
Well, it's who you are, and people get to know you better. So
Perfect. I appreciate the
awesome.
opportunity.
Thanks again, Ronnie.
Thank you.